How do you make an easy keto shake and bake that you can store in your pantry?
Well, today on WTF, we're going to show you how to make a great keto shake and bake that you can put on chicken, pork, or any other meat, and show you a great keto chicken sandwich. Hello and welcome to WTF, where we transform food here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen. I'm Chef Scott Guerin.
And I'm Janie Wang, one of the owners of Modernist Pantry. And here on WTF, every week we talk about unique ingredients and techniques and show you new recipes that you can do in your kitchen. So remember, subscribe and ring the bell and you'll get notified of our episodes when they come out. And remember, we are doing a giveaway every single week, so stick around to find out about this week's giveaway. Now, this week what we're going to cover on WTF is how do you make a keto shake and bake, which I thought would be really fun. I'm not familiar with it, so I can't wait to learn how exactly that works and how do you make it delicious. Now, Scott, can you talk a little bit about what is a shake and bake and some of the challenges that you ran into when you were thinking about how to make it keto?
Sure. So shake and bake is basically like a box mix that you would generally find in a grocery store, which has all the components for a good, it's almost like a oven-baked fried chicken, right? So what we wanted to do here was make it completely keto, so we remove any of that gluten or any of that starch as well. So any carbs that could possibly go in there, that we take them out and we replace them with ingredients that are carbless, which is kind of difficult.
Right.
But we found some really great ways to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we've been doing more keto episodes lately because people have been requesting, like we want to see more keto content, so fantastic. Well, what exactly makes a keto shake and bake different from a traditional, carby one?
Sure. So first off, no breadcrumbs, no flour, none of those ingredients, which are super important when you're doing anything that's like, crusted and baked. So what we have here is we actually replace the breadcrumbs with something similar. It's pork rinds.
All right.
So the pork rinds act as that breadcrumb, which give us the main crunch, main crisp, but there's all sorts of other things in there to kind of help with the crispiness. And one of the issues we ran into, which you asked earlier, was it gets a bit too fatty. It gets it holds onto the moisture, and it holds onto the fattiness, and you don't really get a nice crispiness. So we found a few ingredients that will help prevent that.
Yeah, I mean, I would think we could maybe just go into the demo and talk about some of the challenges and how you corrected them as we go along.
Right. Yeah, so very simple. I'll start with basically a full bag of pork rinds, and this will give you quite a bit of our breading. So if you buy an entire pack of, whether you want to do chicken breasts or chicken thighs, you can do whatever you want. This works with anything. This will give you enough to do the entire pack for your entire family, friends, whatnot. So I have a few ingredients, garlic powder, the general things that you would get, onion powder. You don't want to add too much, but you want to have some for flavor. Right. We have some white pepper here, so I don't have a lot of little black speckles. I have some sage, which will help enhance kind of the chicken flavor.
Cool.
Salt, because you need salt. A little bit of cayenne, just for a kick. And then we get into our ingredients that are really going to help this stick to the outside, which is another thing. With all this fat on top of meat, it doesn't really stick well. So we wanted to find some things that really help sticking. We tried a few different things. We were originally working with egg yolk powder, but we found that held onto a lot of fat, and it wasn't as sticky as egg white powder. So we went with egg white powder, which is basically just pure protein. So we put the egg white powder on the outside. And then we have EverCrisp. And EverCrisp is an ingredient that we have that's all fiber, but it helps with fried foods really well. So it's soluble. It'll hold on to some of that moisture on the outside, mix in with the rest of the ingredients here, and help keep it crispier for longer. So EverCrisp goes in there. And then a little bit of almond flour. This is an almond flour that you can get at the grocery store. And this just also helps kind of stick to the outside and give a nice flavor. So we have that, and it's very simple. So put this on here and just give it a few pulses. Now when doing this, you want to get it to whatever texture you like. If you like it really fine, do that. You could pulse this down to like a panko size, which are basically like a 1/4 of an inch pieces. You can do that. Anything works. Just make sure that you are, not blending it into a paste, because this
Right.
does have a lot of fat in these. So if you keep going with this, it'll eventually just turn into a paste, and then that doesn't work for shaking and baking.
Right.
So let's take a few pulses here. You can see exactly what happens. Great, so that's pretty much perfect. It took about 8 seconds to do that, but you get these really great, really fluffy kind of texture right here, and everything's mixed in thoroughly. And at the end of the day, we're putting pork rinds on the outside of chicken. It's going to be delicious, right?
Yeah, and one of the great things about this is that, as you can see, this is making a fairly substantial amount of shake and bake, and if you're not going to use it all at once, this can probably just stay in the pantry because we're using pasteurized egg white powder, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a great point. So yes, what I would suggest doing is taking out what you need for this recipe. So when you take out what you need for the recipe, you can take the rest, you can put it into a sealed bag, you can keep it in your pantry, or if you wanted to keep it in the refrigerator or freezer, you could absolutely do that. It's good anywhere because there's no moisture in this that will rehydrate those egg whites and make them, potentially hazardous. So I just have a little bag here. You can use any bag at home. If you have like a zip top bag, that works fine. So I'm just going to put in a few spoonfuls here. I'm going to do one more for good measure. And we're frying chicken thighs today because I think they're better than chicken breast. But if you love chicken
Agreed.
breast, please use chicken breast. Use whatever you'd like for what you're making. You can also do pork chops or anything like that.
Okay, any protein, no limitations.
Yeah, I wouldn't do a nice steak, but if you wanted to, more power to you. Right. So I'm just going to do that, and as it says, shake. And just open it up just in case a part stuck to each other during the shaking process. There we go. Great. And then take this, put it onto a rack, and we can just bake it. And when we come back, we'll see what that looks like, and we'll make a keto chicken sandwich.
Sounds good. All right, and we're back, and as you can see, we have a delicious recipe for a sandwich to share with you. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk real quick about this week's giveaway, which is, you may have already guessed it, a bag of the EverCrisp and a bag of the egg white powder, so you can try to make the shake and bake at home. And all you have to do to enter to win is to leave in the comments below something that you would like to shake and bake. It's that easy, so leave your comments. All right, now Scott, we have the chicken. Do you want to talk about like how long you cooked it for, what temperature, what's happening with the sandwich?
Yeah, so there's a few different things that you can do with the chicken. I would always suggest, if you're going to be cooking something in the oven, maybe give it a marinade, maybe give it a brine, but that's going to be up to you, and that's also going to be up to keto. So to make sure that you're using things that are good for it and aren't going to add any carbohydrates. But for this, we just took regular chicken thighs like you saw, and we put it in the oven at around 400 degrees, and we just went until it was crispy. The good thing about chicken thighs is that they can take a lot of heat and still be really nice, juicy, and delicious, whereas chicken breast can be very chalky and dry because it doesn't have enough fat. So we just went for about 10 to 12 minutes,
Okay.
somewhere in that. But we got it nice and crispy. The higher the temperature, it's going to be better. Lower temperature, it might get a little soggy.
Okay.
So around 400, if you can go a little bit higher, that's fine. But make sure it doesn't burn.
Okay, and what did you use for the sandwich bread here?
Great. So the Chaffles is a recipe that we have done here before, and we wanted to use these Chaffles in a way that's different than just waffles, which we had done before. So we took this and we made a bun for a sandwich.
Cool.
And the best thing about the Chaffles is we wanted to make them the best waffles that you could have. But if you remove the vanilla, and you can leave the sugar that's in there, but you remove the vanilla, then you have a great sandwich bread. So you can use it for any sandwich that you want to make keto.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched the Chaffles episode already, we're going to link to it at the end of the card. At the end card? Yeah, of this episode. And of course, as always, you can find all of these recipes in the links in the description below, and a ton of more recipes on our blog.modernist pantry as well. All right, so I want to try this
you
chicken.
can try the chicken,
okay,
for sure.
all right, and I am not a keto follower, So I think my main concern with keto stuff is whether it's going to taste like in this case, too porky, like too much like pork rinds. So that was also something that we wanted to watch out for. And while I'm trying this, can you maybe explain a little bit, because we talk about EverCrisp a lot, we use it a lot, but it is a wheat-derived product.
Yes.
Can you talk about what makes it keto friendly?
Yeah, so it is made from wheat, but this is just the dextrose, not dextrose. This is the dextrin from wheat. So basically, it's just the fiber. It's a soluble fiber that is from wheat. Now, it being from wheat, there can be some concerns considered like dirty keto, because it does come from a gluten source or a wheat source. But this is just fiber, and it has no net carbs. So technically, it is good for keto. If you're completely adverse to using wheat in anything, then you can just not use the EverCrisp. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
The recipe may not be as crispy for as long, but you could absolutely take it out without having to worry about it completely ruining the recipe.
Yeah, but EverCrisp is gluten-free because of the way that it's processed.
Exactly.
So if you have a gluten sensitivity or allergy, certainly you don't really have to be concerned about that. And this was really, really good. So I'm kind of like really pleasantly surprised. Like, yeah, you get the pork rind, but it doesn't feel overly greasy. It doesn't feel like you're just eating chicken dipped in like this really oily batter, which is something that we were looking for. And Scott was able to make it happen, so that's awesome. And I think that about wraps it up for us for today, for this episode. So until next week, from here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen, I'm Janie Wang.
And I'm Scott Guerin.